The Dark Secret of John Gray. When a nation turns its back. John Gray was once the epitome of success and morality. He appeared on television with a confident smile, delivering speeches about family values and responsibility. People admired and trusted him as a perfect role model, a dedicated professional, an ideal husband, and a devoted father. But everything crumbled in an instant when his own wife, Eleanor Gray, exposed the lies he had been hiding for years. The Two-Faced Man. John Gray was not just a talented politician, but also a highly influential speaker, frequently appearing on major platforms to advocate for fidelity in marriage and honesty in life. His speeches were widely quoted, his books were bestsellers, and he was a mentor to aspiring entrepreneurs and young politicians. He was seen as a shining example of ethics and integrity. Yet behind closed doors, John Gray was a completely different person. He led a double life, engaging in extramarital affairs, using his power and influence to manipulate others, and indulging in secret luxuries. After delivering speeches about loyalty and moral values, he would disappear into an extravagant world that contradicted everything he preached. Eleanor Gray, the woman who had stood by his side for over 2 decades, was initially unaware. But small changes in his behavior, late-night phone calls, cryptic messages, and sudden business trips raised her suspicions. Unveiling the truth. Eleanor was an intelligent woman. Instead of confronting John immediately, she quietly gathered evidence. For over a year, she documented his suspicious activities, saved messages and emails, collected photographs, and even hired a private investigator. Then, when she had undeniable proof, she decided to reveal everything. In an exclusive interview with a leading newspaper, Eleanor fearlessly exposed her husband's true nature to the world. She recounted his lies, his secret affairs, the hidden money transactions, and the shady deals he made to protect his reputation. The news spread like wildfire. Social media exploded, the press dissected every detail, and the public felt utterly betrayed. People who once idolized John Gray turned against him. Companies that partnered with him severed ties immediately. His books were pulled from shelves. Speaking engagements were canceled one after another. The fall of a legend. John Gray, once a celebrated figure, became the most despised name in the country. His desperate apologies and public statements meant nothing. The eloquent words that once captivated audiences now rang hollow. The media relentlessly uncovered every facet of his deception, from minor inconsistencies to undeniable proof of his double life. Friends distanced themselves, colleagues abandoned him, and even his most loyal supporters refused to be associated with him. Yet, the greatest blow to John Gray was not the destruction of his career. It was losing the woman who had stood by him through everything. Eleanor walked away from the sham marriage with her dignity intact, while John Gray was left with nothing but disgrace. Lessons from a tragedy. John Gray's downfall serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of deception. It proves that no secret can stay hidden forever, and when the truth comes to light, the repercussions can be catastrophic. The nation turned its back on John Gray, but in the end, the person who truly destroyed him was himself. And perhaps the most painful part was not the loss of fame, but the loss of trust from those who once believed in him. She took a deep breath. I never thought I'd be sitting here, speaking about something so personal, so painful, but I can't keep running from it. I owe it to myself, to my children, to every woman who has ever felt the weight of betrayal and silence. Her voice wavered, but she continued. For months, I have watched my name get dragged into a storm I didn't create. I have seen people assume, judge, and speculate, and through it all, I stayed silent. Not because I was weak, not because I was in denial, but because I needed time to understand, to heal, to figure out what was real and what wasn't. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not wipe them away. She wasn't ashamed of her pain. I know people want details. They want to know if it happened, how it happened, what I'm going to do now. But this isn't about confirming or denying. This is about me taking control of my own narrative. I'm not here to expose. I'm here to heal. Her voice grew steadier, stronger. I don't know what the future holds. I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. I am more than this moment. I am more than a headline. I am a woman of faith, of strength, of purpose, and no matter what happens next, I will not be broken. She exhaled. For the first time in months, she felt free. Faith, forgiveness, and moving forward. In the end, Aventa realized this was never just about her marriage. It was about her healing. Achiuao. The silent storm. For months, whispers drifted through the air like an approaching tempest, heavy, ominous, impossible to ignore. The world watched, captivated, as rumors swirled around Pastor John Gray and an alleged affair with a masseuse. Social media exploded with speculation, news outlets seized the scandal, and judgment rained down from every direction. Yet, through the deafening noise, one voice remained silent, the voice that mattered most. Aventer Gray. The woman who had stood beside him through triumphs and trials chose quiet over chaos. Her silence was deafening, a mystery the world dissected. Was it denial? Was she shielding him? Or was she simply waiting for the right moment? No one knew. Behind closed doors, beyond the prying eyes of the world, a woman wrestled with a storm no one could see. She had read the headlines. She had seen the accusations. She had felt the weight of a world waiting for her response. Every sermon John preached, every public appearance they made together felt like walking through fire. Strangers analyzed her life, assuming they understood her pain, her choices, her reasons. But the truth? The truth was, no one knew the agony of carrying a marriage buckling under the weight of betrayal. No one knew the torment of wondering whether love was real or just a carefully constructed illusion. And now, after all this time, she was ready. Not to justify, not to defend, but to finally, unequivocally, speak her truth. The breaking point. At first, Aventer convinced herself the whispers would pass. Scandals were an unfortunate side effect of life in the public eye. Baseless rumors, sensationalized headlines. She had seen it all before, but this time the storm refused to pass. What began as a murmur grew into a roar. Screenshots surfaced, alleged voice recordings, anonymous sources spilling secrets. Each revelation sliced through her like a fresh wound. She wanted to believe John. She wanted to trust the man she had built a life with, the father of her children, the shepherd of their congregation. But in the silence of the night, when the world was still, doubt crept in like an unwelcome guest. What if it was true? What if the man who preached about faithfulness had shattered the very foundation of their marriage? Behind closed doors, her world unraveled. Friends and family whispered advice, each with their own version of the truth. Some urged her to leave, to show the world she was not a woman who tolerated betrayal. Others pleaded with her to stay, to fight for the man she had vowed to love through sickness and health. But none of them bore the weight of her decision. None of them woke up each morning to a life that no longer felt solid beneath her feet. The hardest part wasn't the public humiliation, it was the private agony. The way her heart clenched when she looked at her children, wondering how this would shape their future. The way she forced a smile in church, pretending to be whole while her soul splintered. The way she felt trapped between love and anger, loyalty and self-respect. And then one day, the breaking point arrived, not in a single moment, but in 1,000 tiny betrayals. The way John avoided her gaze, the way her home felt like a house of strangers, the way she realized she was waiting for a truth that might never come. The silence was suffocating. The weight of unspoken words was crushing her. She had to speak. Not for the world. Not for John. For herself. The decision to speak out. For weeks, she battled herself. Speaking out meant facing judgment, exposing her pain, and shattering the image she had carefully built. Would she be seen as a victim or a woman strong enough to take control of her own story? She told herself that silence was strength, that if she ignored the rumors, they would fade, that if she and John handled this privately, they could survive.
But silence wasn't healing her. It was destroying her. It made her question her own worth, her own truth, even her own faith. She thought of her children. One day they would hear this story. What would they think if their mother had shrunk beneath the weight of someone else's choices? Would they see her as weak, or as a woman who had the courage to stand? Then came the final push. Perhaps it was a conversation with a friend who told her, "Your silence is not protecting you." Perhaps it was another headline, twisting her life into fiction. Perhaps it was the moment she looked in the mirror and no longer recognized the woman staring back at her. She knew then this wasn't about saving her marriage, it was about saving herself. And so she made the decision. She would speak, not in anger, not for revenge, but for truth. The emotional revelation. The camera rolled. Effenter sat with her hands resting in her lap, her heart pounding in her chest. She had rehearsed this moment